Okay, good. I think we still have persons who are coming on and joining, but we're gonna get going because unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, this second aspect of agribusiness that we are going to be discussing this evening, it's a bit more tedious than the first aspect where I would have given you, more definitions and explanations as to what an agribusiness would entail. So we're going to be looking this evening at the topics. Come on. Okay, yeah. First of all, we're going to have the discussion about our Let's Get Creative activity that you would have had from Tuesday. So I would have asked you while we're waiting on the others to start putting your ideas in the group chat so I can start scrolling through and see what we have. I have a few persons already put their information in already. And so I'm just waiting for the others for you to start putting in your information. And it does not have to be an actual idea that you have that you want to bring to fruition, because I understand that some persons might be a little bit hesitant to share their ideas because they don't want persons to steal ideas. It might be a bit protective. That's perfectly understood. But it's just an activity to get your juices flowing, get your ideas rolling, find out where, you can lead with that. Okay, so we have some more persons adding information. Very good. And then we're going to move on from the discussion to discussing talking about what is a business model versus a business plan. And then we're going to look at a feasibility plan, business proposals, financing, credit, and contracts. So basically, this is like the second part. This is, I usually do this in steps. So first we talk about the ideas that you have, the feasibility, why you chose what you chose, looking to see where you fit into the agriculture model, and moving forward from there. Because after you've had your ideas now and you want to get going, some of these things, some of these aspects now in the second discussion, these are what are going to help you to get to where you need to go. Understanding that is not everybody that will be able to run to a bank and get a loan. And we had that discussion already on Tuesday, right? So I'm going to show you or guide you through. And unfortunately, like I said before, this session is too short to explain a lot of what needs to be done. But like I said, if after the discussions, you have any questions or queries, then feel free to email me. I hope you guys took my email address from the last session. Okay, so let's get into it. Right. Bear with me, my computer. Yes, all right, let's go. All right, so let's get creative. And I'm seeing some very good ideas already in here. So as they come in, I'm just gonna read them out. Like I said, it's about 40 something of you guys, which is good. So even if I don't get to your idea and your product and why, hopefully the discussion with the others and having them explain themselves, or you see what is being put in the chat, you can get an idea, get something to trigger you off that will say, oh, that's unique, and so on. I never thought of that, and hopefully inspire you to follow or start to look into that idea that you came up with. Okay, so the first one we have is Agozi Farms. I hope I pronounced that right. Hormone and antibiotic-free chicken and poultry products. And I chose this business because I want to provide healthier chicken for a federation. It's an issue that is important to me. Yes, I love that. And I would encourage you, if you see an idea in the chat and you want to support it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That's a very good, and we discussed this on Tuesday, the importance of knowing what's in your food. and not just knowing what's in your food, knowing how it's produced, right? And also the importance of reducing our import bill. So this idea does those three things, right? And it is hoped that with the development of the poultry production, not the poultry, the broiler, the broiler production unit that is supposed to be at Prospect, if it does get off and running, that will have more persons going into broiler production. It does not have to be large scale, it can be small scale. And you know, there used to be a point in time a few years ago, I think it was Mr. Jones Egg Farm. He actually did a small scale broiler production around Christmas time. Now, his birds were smaller than the imported ones, but what persons noted about his birds, his chicken, is that they were tastier, right? They might have been smaller, but they were tastier, they tasted better, they smelt, even persons said they smelt better and fresher when they cooked them, and they took in the seasonings better. So this is something that is very important, not just with our chicken, but with meats in general. And I know some of you here would have indicated that you're interested in not just poultry, but livestock, beekeeping, and that kind of stuff. So that is very good. And those areas, we have a need for persons who are interested in those areas and those type of productions. Okay. Keisha said she chose rosemary because of its rich source of antioxidants. Serenity Essentials, papaya here, and body oil that caters to sensitive skin and needs. Okay, very good. Too often products are loaded with chemicals, which persons with allergies are sensitive to. Yes, okay. I like to provide the same luxurious feels and benefits without the allergy triggers. Yes, I love that. When next week, Tuesday, who is this? Therese, I want you, make sure you save this. And this is why I'm going to tell you this, because you see that last line next week when we're going into market linkages, there's an aspect about marketing. And that last line there that you have, right, is actually what we call a tagline. It sounds like a tagline that you can use in an ad, right? So I want you to hold on to that line, right? I'd like to provide the same luxurious feels with the benefits without the allergy triggers, right? Makes your skin feel nice and smooth. Okay, so hold on to that, please. Don't let that one go. Todo Coco, Mother Becky C. Sarah, I love it. Collect spent coconuts from roadside jelly water sellers and process them into mulch material. Actually, yes, and I know in that is very popular, and here in Nevis it's getting more popular. We actually have at least 4 or 5 persons now on a stretch from end to end from Charlestown that sell coconut water. And actually, one of them, when he's done with the empty coconuts, he takes them, a farmer collects them and uses them as mulch. I think that farmer actually has some sort of landscaping business or small business also. So that is a very good idea. And it also, as an extension, would lead to something that can help with the issue of climate change that we discussed before as one of the issues, right? That farmers have, where, you know, with the drought and everything, as mulch is very important, and natural mulches are very good. And coconut mulch has been shown to not only retain the soil water, but also has minerals, micro minerals in it. So as it breaks down and it takes its time to break down, it goes into the soil and it actually helps the soil quality, right? And also contributes like a mini fertilizer, so to speak, to the crops that they're on. So that's a wonderful idea. Sherry-Ann, Island Fresh Produce. Provide the best fruits and vegetables to schools and nurseries, thus making sure that our little ones are fed with the best organic local fruits and veggies. Oh, I love that. And I'm going to add something to this, Sherry Ann. This is for your consideration. A lot of parents are moving away from buying the imported baby food, and they're actually looking into making it at home themselves. That can be actually an offshoot of this idea, where you might have a contract with a nursery or daycare, and you actually make the baby food for them. So let me know what you think about that. And we can have a discussion about that. So I love that one. Beryl's fruity flavors, icy treats, snow cones, ice cream. Oh yes, especially in this heat. Oh yes, yes, yes. Right. And Beryl, I will tell you, this would work wonderfully if you have it, or you have stations like mobile stations that you can be around the schools, especially around break time and lunchtime. Or I could tell you, you would get very good business, especially in this heat. And not just with schools, around business places, construction sites and so on. There's a lady from Cotton Ground, I think, that actually drives around lunchtime with smoothies and so on to different construction sites. And she sells her smoothies and so on to the construction workers. So Beryl, I could tell you now, you have a market for this. If you're serious about it, jump on this right about now. Right. Okay, moving on. Hi, good evening, Indira. How are you? Total farming novice. Chocolate and vanilla fields, a paradise flavor fauna. This is a cocoa tree and vanilla bean production farm focused on both local consumption and international export opportunities that offers a unique flavor profile that will be branded the Sugar City strain. Ooh, I like that. I love that. Okay, so Indira, once again, hold on to that for next week, especially that last line there. You're going to use it. I promise you, you're going to need it, right? Hive harmony, hive and harmony. Okay, that sounds like bee products, candles, and along that line. Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Give us a little bit more information about that. Seashells, healthy food and drinks. Fruits and vegetables in season to prepare food and drinks. Yes, so we don't have to be running up and down. You have them already by you. So you just come and, you know, get our stuff so that we can make our products or go home in our kitchens and utilize them one time. Tracy, all about the tea. Tea grown in my yard. Make it Sunday afternoon pit stop. I'm English. I love tea. Tracy. Tracy. But you see, the thing is, right? And how should I put it? You know, the old people have a saying, when it's hot out, you should drink tea or drink soup. And it sounds counterintuitive because it's hot. But really and truly, teas actually help to cool the body down by producing the sweating effect. So it helps your body cool down from an external source. So that is something along that line if you want to market it that way, because persons are going to be like, tea in this heat? Really? So you have to find a creative way to market it. So it's not a bad idea. All right. So it said hive and honey. Okay. Beekeeping. Yes. I was thinking it was something along that line, Heather. Medicinal honey, pollen candles, education workups, why global need for beekeepers, especially women. Okay. Heather, I'm going to ask you a question right now. Are you a part of any beekeeping association in St. Kitts, or are you taking part in any beekeeping bee training? Heather.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry.
Yes.
No, I'm not taking part in any beekeeping training.
Okay. Would you be interested?
Yes, I'd be very interested.
Okay.
For sure.
Shoot me. You have my email address, right?
I think I took a picture of it. Yes, please.
Yeah, let me put it here again, because I have some information that might just benefit you for a program that is ongoing, that is Jeff sponsored in the Federation. right? And we do have persons who are in the federation who are training persons in beekeeping, and the materials are provided. The workshop, they provide you with all the materials you need, the smokers, the suits, all that good stuff. Okay.
Wow. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes. If you can just shoot me an email identifying yourself, I'll get as much information as possible and I'll forward it to you. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Right. Yes, Sherry-Ann. Yes. So yes, you do exactly. You see, so we're on the same path about packaging for the baby food, right? Island coolers, natural fruit juice pouches, healthier fruit juices without much added sugar. Yes, please, because right about now, we know, especially for you parents here who had to suffer during the summer, the constant opening of a refrigerator door and going to the supermarket and buying all those sugary juices and so on. And we know sugar is not that good, especially for children and the development of their teeth, right? So we want them to have something that tastes good and is delicious, but is also good for them and is not doing damage to their teeth, because unfortunately, too many children suffer from there's an increase in cavities and so on. So not just the vitamins and the minerals, but also protecting their teeth as well, right? Kale blend smoothies, local fruits from the farm straight into the blender. Oh, I love that one. Right. And let me ask a question, Akeisha. Is it a case where you have the fruits they are already sliced up and everything else, and the person comes and selects their stuff and then you put it in one time so they're watching you make it? Because that can also be kind of the experience that persons have coming to a business like that and seeing it, so they actually see and know what's going in there, and then it goes down a little better for them, if you understand what I'm saying. So it also takes a little flair and drama, when you're doing it, almost like you're cooking in front of persons. So, you get to talking with the client while you're preparing the stuff, you find out a little bit more and more about them, and you just build up your clientele based on that, right? Seldine, you cannot see? Oh boy. I don't know. I'm seeing what you're saying. I don't know if everyone else is seeing what you're saying. But that's okay. That's okay. Remember, you guys are going to get the recordings. Okay, so you'll hear about what I'm discussing. So far, so good. For those persons who have contributed, thank you. Thank you, greatly appreciated, right? And now we're gonna move in to, oh, I just missed this one, KK's Organics Fertilizers. The fertilizers are cured manure from different animals from my farm. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Yes, Lakeisha, yes, right? And let me give you something to add to that. We know that when you cure manure, right? When you cure it and you have it there and you process it, you can actually, there's a farmer over in Camps, Newcastle. He does it for himself personally. What he does, he has livestock also, and he goes down to the beach and he also gets the dried sargassum, and he rinses it, he processes it, he chops it up, and he mixes it in with his manure. Okay? So that forms an enriched fertilizer, natural fertilizer that he makes for himself, right? He doesn't really give it too much to people because it's time consuming and tedious, but it's something that you can consider also along that line. From kid to goat rearing, breeding, meat production, livestock auction. Yes, yes, oh yes. And I'm gonna give you a joke about goats too. They're smarter than sheep. and they're easier to me. Dealing with livestock, I always prefer goats over sheep. But yes, that's a very good idea, Desiree, right? I love it. All right, so we're gonna leave on that note for now, but if the others of you who haven't submitted anything want to message me privately and ask me about an idea that you have and what I think and what my input is, please feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get back to you on that, okay? So we're gonna move on now onto our next slide. Right. Okay, into the meat of this now. Now that you have your ideas and now you have your reasons why you want to do what you want to do, and you've had this goal, but how are you going to get it, right? It's very daunting going out into the business world, and unfortunately or fortunately, not everybody has business experience. Not everybody did business at school. And so if you have a brilliant idea and you're not that way inclined, you can feel a bit apprehensive. You might not be as confident as you should be. And so these tools that I'm going to be sharing with you this evening are what are going to help you move the process along. Okay, so first let's break it down. A business model versus a business plan. A business model is a single diagram of your business. Basically, it shows what your business is. Okay, I produce coffee. This is where I produce my coffee. This is how much coffee I produce. This is where I produce it. This is why I produce it. Boom. That's your business model. Okay, basically from production from the raw material all the way down to production. That is your business model versus a business plan. Okay, and a business plan basically is about the money. Okay, so your business model would tell me what you want, what you have, or what you want to have. But the business plan is, now that you have this idea, how am I going to get the money to support it, to build up this business? Okay, so a business plan is a simple document investors make you write that they don't read. That's a joke, eh? But no, they do read it. They do read it. And it's important to know the components of a business plan so that when you take your business plan either to the bank or to a grant funding agency or to any other type of investor or someone like that, that when they look at it, they get excited and they're like, wow, I want to be a part of this. I want to help this get off the ground. I have faith that this is going to go off without a hitch, right? When they look at it, they're like, you have a purpose. You got it. Okay, we are going to help you. Take our money, right? Well, I wish they would say so all the time. Sometimes, a lot of the times is more tedious than that. But that is what the business plan is about. It's basically a document that would encourage investors or the banks or grant providers to give you the money that's needed to start your business or invest in your business. Okay. All right. Next. All right. So here I have a simple business plan, and a business plan does not have to be too formal, depending. And it depends on who you're presenting the business plan to. Okay. So for example, if it's an institution like Development Bank, they understand that persons are newbies, so to speak. So they're not looking for some 10-page document in front of them to explain what your business is. Okay, and what you what you need and why you need it and what your business is about. Simple is better. Okay. The most detailed plans, and I'm going to show you, give you guidelines later on, would be for when you're actually getting or seeking grants, but that information is a little bit further down the line. So just a formal definition is a business plan is a formal written document containing the goals of a business, the methods for attaining those goals, and the time frame for the achievement of those goals. Boom, bam, bap. So if you look at the simplified form that I have here of the business plan, right? If you take the components of this business plan and you want to expound on it, basically you would have a very cohesive business plan, whether it's on the form or if you want to type one up from scratch. Okay, so here you have your name of the business, owner, why. Okay, why do you do what you do, or why do you want to do what you do? And that is why I asked you guys about the idea and why, because a lot of investors and banks want to know why you want to get into this particular business. Okay, and then how do you think that you're going to get there, or if you have already started, how have you gotten here? Okay, how have you gotten there? Have you put in your own personal finances? Have you tapped into your personal savings? Did you inherit some money? Did you sell a piece of land? Did you sell your soul? Right? All these things that they want to know if you've already started off, right? And if you haven't started yet, they want to know, okay, if we give you this money, how are you going to start it then? Okay, and what are your goals? Okay, what do you do? Okay, so that what do you do is basically to describe, okay, I produce the best mountain grown coffee from the hills of Nevis Peak. It's natural, it's luxurious, it's strong, it wakes up in the morning, something fancy like that. Okay, sometimes, but not all the times, they would ask about a customer problem. Okay, so for example, with those of you that are interested in the livestock aspect, right? And you are saying that, you know, you want to have healthier meat sources, healthier chicken and healthier mutton and so on. And the reason why you would want to have a healthier meat source is because you recognize that there's a problem, that customers are complaining that they don't know where their meat is coming from, what is in their meat, right? And what they can, and if it's safe or not for them to eat, you know, if it's contaminated or not. So that is the problem. So you put that problem in there and say, you know, increased meat contamination, increase hormones in the meat product, in the chickens and other material and other meat stuff and everything else like that, and that would be a problem. Solution offered. Your business, your idea is the solution to produce hormone-free broiler chickens fresh, right, to the public, straight off, right from the farm, straight home to you. You don't have to worry about the contamination. That's your solution. Okay, target market, households. You could say target market would be your regular households, or you would want to market to local restaurants, or you might have an end goal to want to export your meat products and all these things. So those would be your target markets. Okay, position or concentration. Basically, it's talking about your population, where you're located right now, your community. It's just a description to say, okay, I'm located here in St. Kitts, or I'm located here in Nevis, and this is who I'm surrounded by. So I know that my market is close by, or my market is such and such and such a group of persons. Okay, competitive advantage. What would make your chicken or your meat products better than what is imported? Okay, and we would have already stated before, you know, it's healthier, less hormones, less contamination, no chemicals, all that stuff. And you would say that is your competitive advantage. Now, stating your competitive advantage is good for when you have to have a higher price markup than what the import is, because you have to explain to the consumer and the investor why you have a particular price point. Okay, and understanding, and we would have mentioned this already on Tuesday, especially if you have to import stuff like packaging and so on, maybe the local production of the broilers itself may not be, or the goats may not be that economically daunting, But when you get to customs, if you have to bring in packaging and labels and stuff like that, that's where you get hit hard. And then you have to make sure that you cover for that in your price point. Okay. Income streams. Where do you intend to get your money from, or where have you gotten your money from? Okay, so I would have mentioned before, whether it's your personal income, if you have a job already and you're using part of your salary to funnel it into the business, if you've gotten an inheritance, a small business loan, somebody loans you money, family members, friends invest, that kind of stuff, you put it there. Okay, price strategy, I would have mentioned this. So your price strategy would mean you are now pricing your products based on the input that you're putting in. So you have to factor in water, electricity, rent. Even if you are operating out of your own home, you have to factor in some kind of quote unquote business rent price. Your labor, it might seem counterintuitive. And I'm talking from experience here with my own business, where I was running my business and the monies were cycling, but I was not taking a quote unquote salary out of the business. I wasn't paying myself, right? It was just circling and cycling, and I did not factor in that I need to pay myself, right? If you're already if you already started a little business or you have something going, you know, sometimes when you get paid and you need to run to the supermarket, you're not thinking or you're not accounting for the fact that, you know, you have to account for the money is given to you. You got a little cash in your hand and you run to the supermarket and you buy a little something, and that is that, right? However, that is considered a form of like self-payment, especially if it's something that you're buying for yourself personally. So you would account for that. So if you say somebody pays you $100 fee for a product, and you realize that you run out of toothpaste and you haven't put the money on the bank yet, and you need to buy a tube of toothpaste, right? And you take out $5 out of that $100, then you account for that $5 by saying that is your payment to yourself for your quote unquote labor. It might seem kind of minuscule, but it's very important in the long run when you're working out your price strategy. Because most of the times when persons work out their price strategy, they only focus on the cost of their raw materials, okay, and the cost that customs would impose on them when they import stuff, but they don't factor in things like the cost of the water, electricity, the use of your own building, your own labor, and stuff like that. So all of that has to be factored into your price strategy. Okay, and then at the end you have your top 3 competitors. If you don't have any competitors, yay. If you have competitors, if you don't know who your competitors are, you have to look them up. Okay, because it might seem, and it pays to do some research on who is already in the business. You do your research about who's already in the business, not to copy them, okay, and not to steal from them, but to look to see, okay, what are you good at and what are you better at than them? So you work on your strong points, and then you would recognize where your weak points are, and then you strengthen those areas, so that when you come out now, even though you're coming into a market that persons are already existing in, you are able to stand up on your own, and your business can stand up on its own. Okay. All right, so let's look at this now. The key elements of a business plan. First of all, an executive summary. And I don't want you to get scared, especially if you're not business minded. I don't want you to get scared about some of these terms, even though they seem a lot businessy, might be a bit technical for you. It might sound fancy, but they are very simple, okay? So an executive summary basically is just a breakdown of the goals of your company. And this would entail giving a summary of what your business is about, your goal, your motto, if you have one, your slogan, if you have one, and stuff like that. It gives an overview of the main points of what is to be expected in your business plan. Okay. And the reason why you put the executive summary at the beginning is because it's almost like when you're doing a CV or a resume, and that first introductory paragraph about yourself that the HR person is going to look at and read to decide whether or not they want to continue reading through your CV or your resume. That is the catch point for the executive. That is what the executive summary does in the business plan, right? And that is where the joke at the beginning comes about, where it says, you know, a business plan is a document you read that you do that investors don't read. And the reason that came about is because a lot of persons don't know how to sell themselves, okay? And for the executive summary, this is your first main point of selling your business to whoever it is that is going to be that you want to invest in your business or you want to get those funds from, okay? And sometimes if it's done really well, not only does it catch the attention of maybe the bank or the investor or the grant person, right? But it makes it easier now for when they're going through the document to look at key areas that are important to them. And that way they don't have to read through and go detail for detail for detail and then get their brain tired. And at the end, then it puts you at a better standing. Okay, so that is what the executive summary is. And then we have a business description. Describe your business. Similar to the question of describe yourself. Okay, if you want someone to invest in your business, you have to sell. So your business description is the second part of marketing that they're going to meet. The executive summary would be the first. The business description is where you're going to really, really sell. So you see up earlier when I highlighted certain persons and I told them about the descriptions and the words and so on that they had and how they explained their business, and I told them to hold on to that, right? Those are lines that you would use in your business description that jump out to someone reading them and be like, oh, this is unique. I like this idea. I wonder what else they have. And then you want to continue reading the business plan because now you see, okay, this is a good idea. I like how she's describing it. I want to see what else they have to say about it. Okay? Right? And then you go into, and after that now, after you describe the business, you go into products and services. And this is, you don't have to be fancy with it. You just list, okay? Some persons, what they would have done, and what is recommended, if you have a product, you take pictures, okay? You take pictures and you'd have like a mini product catalog that you can attach. So in the products and services section, you don't have to actually have something listed. You can see, please see attached catalog for our various products and services, and have that as a separate document, okay? And the reason why you would want to have that as a separate document is also another part of your marketing strategy for if you want to approach maybe a supermarket or another retailer to sell your products. You have something on hand that you can hand out and say, hey, I have this business. I'm interested in having my products, or I'm interested in having you market my services for me. Here's a brochure with the information. Please feel free to contact me. And then that would lead you into sales and marketing, okay? Sales and marketing. How are you going to get the attention of the market that you want, okay? So sales, give me your price points, okay? Where do you want to sell them? Why do you want to sell them in that area? What are your marketing strategies? Social media, email blast, WhatsApp, radio, print media. have you looked up the costings for them? Give me the costings, give me the prices of all these things, so I know what I'm looking at. So I know that if I'm investing in you, that the money will be going into maybe 25% into marketing, and radio costs this much, print media costs this much, to get a social media manager costs this much, and you break it down accordingly. So you have to itemize these things. So we're not looking for paragraphs. Okay, when it comes to these sections, we're not looking for paragraphs. We're looking for bullet points most of the time, with figures or an Excel sheet and stuff like that. So you don't have to be skilled with Excel and stuff like that. You could just type it up in a list form. But I always recommend, and this is where I come into play, I always recommend that when you're going through doing things like this, it's going to feel daunting. Sometimes you're going to feel overwhelmed because you're not sure of what you're doing. Feel free to get a second opinion or get a second set of eyes, right? There are many persons available to you, not just within Helen's Daughters, but outside in the community, who are skilled and adept at doing these things, that will go over it with you and be like, okay, you need to change this, tweak this, take out this, put back in this, and stuff like that. Okay, so I know that, and I am guilty of it myself. Sometimes we tend to be too independent. We want to do things our own when we think we have it. But even with my own personal experience doing these things, I still let other persons, I call them my adultier adults, go over stuff for me if I have stuff to submit, right? And operations, moving into operations. How are you going to operate? First of all, this looks at, are you going to operate from home? Are you renting a space? Are you leasing land? How much is it costing you to operate from these various places? So if you're operating from home, right? How much is your water bill, your light bill, whatever it is that contributes to whatever it is you're doing? If you have a piece of land that you're leasing to produce crops, how much is the lease? What is the duration of the lease? Give a copy of the contract of the lease so that they see what the lease entails and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. All these things are entailed in operations. Management team. Management means basically, tell us about who runs the business. If you are running it, tell us about yourself and how you run it. What credentials do you have? Okay. And obviously you're not going to have any big degree to say, oh, well, I went to school and I have a business degree and I came back from school and decided that I was going to start this business and everything else. No. And actually, most businesses don't start that way. Most businesses start with a dream, right? And an idea that someone decides that they are going to work on it and go for it. Okay, so when you're talking about your skills and your credentials, you don't have to have, you don't even have to have official training in certain things. You just say, I have a passion. If you, for example, if you're cooking food or making drinks and stuff, I love to be in the kitchen. I have a passion for creating interesting drinks and juices from a long time. I've been making drinks and juices for 10 years now, and I've supplied these to certain places before actually thinking about bringing it into a business and stuff like that. You put your soft skills, whether you're good at communication, you're good at mediating, you're good at planning, organization, all those kind of things. You describe yourself as the owner, okay? And if you have team members, and if you have persons that work along with you and assist you, even if you're not paying them, even if they're not salaried, you still give them a title and you give them a job description in that section where you have your staff management team, so that they know who is working along with you and what skills they possess, right? And then your vision, right? Where would you like to see your business in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Okay? You have to have a vision. And how are you going to get there? For example, I'm going to use myself as an example. When I first started out my pet care services, started out very simple. All I was doing was grooming and training, okay? And then when I started off grooming and training, I was like, I have other skills that I realized that persons want to tap into. So where do I want to see myself next year? Okay. And from there, I said, you know, persons are traveling, they don't have anybody to look after their pets. I have enough space. I'm a vet, so even if they have medical issues and stuff like that, or even if they want me to go to their house and take care of their pets or whatever it is, let me see where I can fit pet sitting. And by next year, I want to be such and such, and I want to have a certain number of pet sitting clients. And that was my vision for a year. And I focused on that and I built on that. And then after I got to where I thought was a good place, I said, okay, where else do I want to go? Where I want to see myself in the next year? I personally like to use an annual vision plan instead of like the 2-year and the 5-year, because I can see 1 year much easier than I can see 2 years. And we know already how 1 year can go by very quickly. And a lot of stuff that you don't expect to happen can happen in a year. So imagine if you have a 2-year plan, what can happen, right? So I like to go the one step at a time route instead of the way ahead route. But if you are that way inclined and you know for sure that you can get certain things done at a particular time frame, then go for it. That is your vision. But when you have your vision and you're talking about your vision and your timeline, you have to discuss how you are going to get there. What do you have in plan? What would you like to see to get there? Okay? And then last but not least, your financial summary. This is very important. Your financial summary lets your investor know, okay, this is how much you have, this is how much you've spent, this is how much you've made. If you haven't actually started the business yet, then your financial summary will be more projections than anything else. And how do you get your projections? If you are providing a service, you look around and you see, okay, well, not much people around here doing the service that I'm doing. So let me look to see if I find someone in a neighboring island. Let me Google it and see if anyone in neighboring islands have this service. How much do they charge? What their hour rates look like? What their how should I say? Yeah, what their rates look like. So that I can say, okay, I'm going to price my service at this because I know in Antigua, gas might be a little bit cheaper than here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I might have to have a higher price point than them because I have to travel to provide the service. And so, okay, I'm going to use their price line as my baseline, but I'm going to go up a little bit more, or I'm going to go down a little bit less, but you have to account for and say why you chose that that projection, that particular price point to project, okay? And then if you have a particular product now, but you haven't started making that product, you haven't actually gone into the manufacturing of that, then your financial summary now will look at persons around you. If they are doing the same thing, you use a baseline and average price point, and then you do your research as to how much your materials are going to cost, and then you do your projections accordingly. Always factoring in, and I'm going to repeat this, always factoring in, even if you're doing stuff from home, your electricity, your water, the cost of using your house, and your labor, okay? Always have a figure in there to pay yourself, even if it's $50, okay? So that you can account for that. All right, so any questions about the business plan so far? Any questions about the business plan?
Mm-mm.
Yes, Miss Williams. No questions about the business plan? Okay, all right. So is that pretty clear for you? I hope it's not too daunting. I hope it's not too scary. Right? I know some people, when they see business aspects, they get a little bit overwhelmed, but and
Meeting mute.
no, it's not a mute. Right. So I like this diagram, and I input this diagram here specifically for you guys. So it's easy for you to break down when you're going into doing your business plan. You know exactly what you need to have. Okay. Right. So this diagram is a good guide for you when you start to do your business plans. Okay. So now let's look into a feasibility study versus a business plan. Now, I just went through great detail about a business plan, and in last session on Tuesday, remember I was talking to you about simple ways that you can do market research that you don't even know it's market research, but that information can help you to know whether or not you have a good business idea to run with, right? So when you have your idea, even before you say, okay, I really want to do this, I have this idea, I'm going to sit down and work out and plot out a business plan. But once again, do you really want to do something that is not going to be beneficial to you financially in the long run? And the reason why I say the long run is that starting a business, the starting point is always the most frustrating, time-consuming aspect of it. And it's the point where you begin and you feel like you want to give up and you feel like you're going to fail. Don't stop. And I will reiterate this. Don't stop, right? And failure is a part of business. And failure is useful when you utilize it to learn from your mistakes, regain yourself, and move forward. Okay? So what the feasibility study does is reduce your risks and gives you a good idea of the areas for potential weakness and failure. Okay? A feasibility study does not have to be extremely detailed or time consuming. So what is a feasibility study then? It provides, and it's an investigation. So is the project feasible? If I do this, does it make sense? Can it be done? Right? Should we proceed with the proposed project idea? It should be conducted to determine the viability of an idea before proceeding with the development of a business. Okay? A feasibility study, even a simplified one, is what is going to help your business succeed in the long run, because you do not want to take up a business idea. For example, say you want to, let me see something that is going to be difficult to do here in the Federation. Oh boy, this is a difficult one. Okay. Well, no, people grow. Okay, I have it. Grapes. Okay. Grapes. There have been several attempts in the Federation. Persons try to grow grapes. However, they are successful in cultivating them, but the grapes are not of the same quality as those that are imported. Why? Because of the environment. Okay? So in order for those persons who are interested in cultivating grapes, they would have to provide an artificial environment for the successful growth of those grapes. To get that artificial environment is going to require a very expensive and fanciful greenhouse. Not the regular greenhouses that we have here where you put up the mesh and stuff like that. it's going to have a climate controlled system in it. Okay? So while they can grow grapes to an extent and they're going to be smaller, they're not going to be as lush and big and juicy and bunchier. Okay? It is not feasible to follow that business idea unless they have the great financial backing behind that can build something that is climate controlled like that. Okay? So you have to be realistic with your business idea. And unfortunately, in the Federation, we are not realistic with business ideas. I'm going to call a spade a spade. What happens here in the Federation is that persons see other persons running a business. These persons have decided, okay, I am good at this. I've done my research. I've put in the finances. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this. I've worked for this for years, and it's finally picking up off the ground. And persons only see you when your business starts to really pop off and be successful. They don't see you when you're struggling. They don't see the sleepless nights. They don't see you when you're crying and you're wondering whether or not you should give up on whatever it is. They're only looking at the partner where they see you looks like you're making money. And so, oh, she looks like she's making money with that. So I am going to run and go and do that too. Without understanding the work that you've put into bringing that idea to reality, okay? And a feasibility study, if you're looking at the list here, hold on, screen, okay. It answers the bottom line. Is this going to make money? As much as you might love to make cupcakes, right? As much as you might love to bake cupcakes and you say, I want to bake cupcakes and put them in the supermarket. But then you get in the supermarket and you already see 4 other persons making cupcakes locally. And then you see imported cupcakes and you look at them and be like, boss, I love to make cupcakes, you know, but are my cupcakes up to the standard of these here in the supermarket, right? So the feasibility study outlines and analyzes several alternatives or methods of achieving business success. So if you have that question now, like, boss, if I really want to make these cupcakes and sell them, you know, but how am I going to know for sure that I'm going to be able to make this a success? Okay? And part of a feasibility study could be something as simple as going to the supermarket and be like, you know, I bake cupcakes and I'm interested in selling cupcakes, but I want to just do a few and sell them and see if the clients, the customers like them. And if they like them, can I bring cupcakes to you on a weekly basis? And if the answer is yes, okay, you go home, you make a small batch, what I call a tester batch. It's almost, it's usually called a soft launch. Okay, you package them nicely and everything else. You might stand up outside the supermarket. You might not even go in the supermarket, and you give out samples of your cupcakes and so on. And if you get a good response, you'll be like, okay, all right. And then you bring them inside and you sell a little bit more and be like, all right, this looks like something that could lead to something, right? And you say, okay, I think this is good to go. Let me sit down and let me write up a business plan, because if I'm going to make these cupcakes, I can't do it with my handheld mixer at home. I'm going to have a tabletop mixer. I'm going to need bigger cupcake trays. I might need a bigger oven, storage for my flour, stuff like that. Okay? And you're going to put all those things are going to be going into your business plan. Okay? Business plan deals with only one alternative or scenario determined to be the best alternative. Okay? And a business plan considers the management side, which we would have discussed before, such as your goals and your objectives of the planned business venture. But the feasibility plan now will give you an idea of like, okay, I did these cupcakes, I did red velvet, and I did chocolate, and I did strawberry, and I did tropical mango, and I did coconut, whatever it is. And people really like the coconut, and people really like the tropical mango. They really like the vanilla and the chocolate and so let me focus on the mango, and let me focus on the coconut, because those are your best alternatives. Does it mean that your chocolate and your vanilla are any worse? No, they could be perfectly fine, delicious, scrumptious. It's just that persons prefer the two other flavors. So that's what you're going to have your focus on, okay? And after you've built up that now with those two other flavors, you could be like, okay, let me mix them up and say, okay, I'm going to have a special today where I'm going to have 4 different flavors. So I'm going to have the regular chocolate and vanilla, but I'm going to have the mango and the coconut mixed in there and have a little package and sell that, okay? So your feasibility study helps you know where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and which aspect of your idea you should play off of to go and reap the most benefits. Okay? All right, so we've done this, we've discussed this definition before. So what we are going to focus on now is the kinds of business proposals, okay? And there are 4 main types or kinds of business proposals. They're internal, external, formal, and informal, okay? Internal may take the form of a justification or recommendation. So if you are, for example, and this is, and most of the times when you're looking at business proposals for entrepreneurs, which you guys are, you are going to be doing external, formal, and informal. Internal is mostly for businesses that are already established and you want another aspect. That's okay, Vernie. And you have another aspect of the business that you would like, or another person in the business you like to persuade to come on board with something. So you do up a business proposals. For example, if you're working for Digicel, okay, and you're in Digicel office and you realize that, you know, staff morale is down, and you think that something can be done to improve staff morale. So you do up a proposal to say, okay, maybe we should have this activity or sell or have this thing with the staff on a particular day to improve staff morale. Those kind of internal things, right? Or if you're looking for a promotion, or stuff like that. So an internal proposal is mostly for those established big corporations and so on, not for entrepreneurs, okay? An external business proposal, this is where you go out looking to, or you are responding to. So sometimes, especially when it comes to grant organizations, they will send out notices that say, call for proposals. Okay, we are seeking persons who are interested in having greenhouses. Proposal openings begin on this particular date. If you're interested in having a greenhouse, submit a proposal as to why we should give you monies to build a greenhouse. Okay? Unsolicited external proposals mean that you have your idea and you're actively going around approaching businesses or approaching investors or approaching grantors to see if they would be interested in investing in your business, okay? So they don't send out a notice and say, oh, we are taking proposals for this, this, and this. You have an idea that, okay, I want to go into beekeeping, bee farming, and produce honey and everything else. So I'm going to go to Jeff and ask them if they're interested in sponsoring me or giving me monies towards this project. Now, Jeff usually sends out notices about receiving proposals. Sometimes they don't, but on a continuous basis, they always receive FAO, UE, CADI, ICA, CEDU, all these places that give out grants and so on, the Taiwanese embassy and so on, they are continuously receiving proposals from persons who want to start businesses, okay? Both solicited, as in they would put out a notice to say that they're looking for proposals, or unsolicited, meaning somebody has an idea, they're not really sure where to get the money from, but they say, okay, the Taiwanese like to sponsor and give out money. Let me do up a proposal and hand it in and see if they would be interested in sponsoring this. Okay, Indira, don't Jeff only cater to young groups, churches, NGOs though? No, actually, Jeff actually, they send out different notices for different types of proposals, right? And they have, how I should phrase it? They prefer groups. They actually prefer to cater to groups. But it's if your group is interested in presenting a project that falls in line to their call for proposals. Okay, for example, let me give you an example. Let me just pull it up here. I'm going to read out one that they just sent out the other day. Hold on, where is it? Where? Okay, have it. Okay, so the most recent call for proposals by Jeff and the Small Grants Program is Unleash Your Innovation, right? Jeff's Small Grants Program invites all community groups and non-governmental organizations to submit innovative project concepts, okay, in the areas of climate action, blue economy, which is ocean stuff, and digital transformation. And I'm going to tell you why Jeff focuses on groups. And certain grant donors, they have preferences. So Jeff prefers groups. SIDU, UWI and so on, they can pick individuals, and that is based on your proposal. But the reason why they prefer groups is because it is more community oriented, as in the beneficiaries can take the project and it is more beneficial, and it's beneficial to a community as opposed to an individual, okay? And having been an overseer for some of these projects, not just for Jeff, but for other persons, individuals and groups, it is unfortunate that we live in a very selfish society. And we have had cases where persons would come together and form a group and apply and send in a proposal for a project. And then say, for example, it's 5 persons in the group, because most of the times 5 is the minimum. You need a president, a vice president, and a treasurer, at least those 3 persons there, right? And then you have supporting members. There's always 1 or 2 persons in that group that believes that the monies belong to them. They don't want to share. They get selfish, and they end up swindling the grants and swindling the members of the groups, okay? And so they're very ticklish and particular, especially with their rules and regulations now. So they cater to groups, yes, but there are also persons out there and individuals and companies and grantors that cater to individuals. And I'm going to compile a list. I'm going to compile a list and I'm going to add it on to the presentation for next week, so that you have those resources. Because like I said, as we go along and we discuss and you indicate areas of interest and information you need, I will attach that information so you have it there at hand. And if you have any queries, then you can also email me accordingly, okay? So, for example, University of the West Indies does individual grants. most of the times these individual grants are part of a greater project that they're trying to achieve something, right? And so they would have workshops, they would train you, you would get that training and that knowledge. And at the end, after you fulfilled certain prerequisites and you filled out all their, and you've done what they told you to do, basically, they give you a little chunk of change at the end. Okay, so for those kinds of grants, you not only leave with a little extra change in your pocket, but you also leave with greater skill and knowledge. Okay, and Helen's Daughters, the first cohort, that is actually how that came about. We was involved along with some other sponsors. That at the end, the participants would have gone on to participate in other activities and got training and participated in competitions, gotten mini grants and stuff like that. Okay. So there are organizations out there that will give individually. Okay. And there are organizations who prefer groups. And the reason why they prefer groups is because of the community aspect of it, as opposed to the individual aspect of it. Also understanding that even if you train individuals, you are still helping the community at large, because then they have that knowledge to go out and contribute to the persons in their community and or teach them certain skills also and pass that knowledge along. Okay, so that is why I said in my introduction on Tuesday, I personally am not just a facilitator here to educate you, but I am also a learner, right? And I participate in these workshops for my personal knowledge and also to pass on the information to you guys and to other persons who might be interested, you know, and I am one to support women, especially in growing their businesses and making sure that you are as steady on your feet as possible, so that we can move forward together. I look at it as a movement, as a unit. So that's just my personal opinion about it. Okay, right. Formal, let's go and continue. Formal business proposals, long and many parts. Formal business proposals are usually grant proposals, and we're going to move on. I'm going to show you an example of what the components are for grant proposals in a bit. And the reason why grant proposals are long and many parts is because they want to know that when they give you, remember, grants are not loans. Okay, grants are not loans. Grants, they give you the money, but you have to abide by their rules and regulations, and you have to produce certain specific end goals in order for them to say, okay, yes, you deserve the money, you did what you had to do with the money, Godspeed, and move along. Okay, it is not a loan. Grants are not loans, right? And that is one reason why I kind of push persons, because we have a lot of debt. Let's be honest. We have a lot of debt. We have mortgages, we got car notes, we got bills to pay, we have children to look after, and so on. And when you have to go to a private institution, a banking institution, and you have to list out all these things that you're already indebted to, and all these institutions that you're already indebted to, and they look at it and be like, boss, you got a good idea, you know, but you're already already too much in. We can, even though you're making money off of this, it's too much of a risk, cause we're not sure if you're gonna be able to pay us. If your business fail, how are we gonna make back our money? Okay, so that is why I like to push persons towards minimal interest loans and grants and or investors. And we're gonna come down a little further. I'm going to go into detail into those, but that is, you know, that's just that's why I prefer grants in general. Informal business proposals. Informal business proposals are what I call, or what many call, conversation proposals, meaning that networking is key. So if you're at a workshop, if you're at a conference, or you're talking to somebody who you know has the financial resources to input into your business idea, you call them and you have a meeting and you say, hi, I'd like to pop in and have a discussion with you about this idea I have. I want to know if you'd be interested in investing in it. But before I present you with a formal document, can I just come in and talk to you about it? Okay. And most of the times that is informal. Also, as I would have mentioned before, when we're talking about the marketing aspect, the sales aspect, and your prices and everything else, and you have a little catalog with your services or with your products and everything else, even if you have something like that and you're handing them out in public to get people interested in buying your product or requesting your service, that is a form of informal, that is a form of a type of business proposal, but it's very informal. Okay. All right. So I hope that makes sense to you. I hope I'm explaining everything properly to you, right? And this is just a breakdown of what I would have explained before with the types of business proposals, right? So I like diagrams that put out information simple, straight to the point, so you understand what you're dealing with. So you'd use it as your guideline, right? When you're thinking about having a business proposal, do you want to have a discussion first before you actually do the actual document so that you can gather whether that person is genuinely interested, or would you just want to just do up a formal proposal and submit it? Okay. And I like informal to formal, because that way you can have a good idea of whether or not you're going to be wasting your time or not by approaching somebody. Okay, you don't want to sit down and have this beautiful, brilliant business proposal that you are sending into somebody, and then you think it's beautiful and brilliant, but when you submit it, it gets completely ignored because they're just not interested. Or maybe they're not, maybe it's not a case where they're not interested, but they don't have the extra money that you think they do. Okay. We like to assume that people have money when they don't, right? And so you want to make sure you have a conversation first to check in and say, hey, I got this idea. I'm looking for investors. I know that your business is geared towards something similar. So can we have a conversation? And you do that first. And then you ask if they are interested and says, hey, it sounds like a great idea. Okay, yes, send in your official business proposal. Then you can ask them specifically, okay, well, what would you like for me to put in there? And then you tailor it specifically to that person or to that business or to that entity, so that when they get it, they'll be like, okay, yes, this is specifically for me, and it's not something that you just sat down and did and just sent it in without consideration as to whether or not they can make an investment into your business or not. Okay, so grant proposals, okay? Very similar to a business proposal, with a lot more detail. Some grant organizations, I should say, they have online forms, okay? So it makes it easier in terms of you not having to sit down and type up everything from scratch. However, some of these forms are very tedious and long and time consuming. And if you are not too keen with if you're not up to date with your record keeping, it can be cumbersome, and you have to run around looking for information, trying to figure out the cost and price of stuff that you have done in the past that needs to be put in that specific document, okay? So the most common sections of the grant proposals, and you don't have to have all of these elements. You put in the elements that are most important or that are requested. And if you go online and they have a form, then you just follow the form as they ask you to, okay? So you have a cover letter. Cover letter is something similar to a cover letter that you would do for a job application, but this is now for a grant application. So you would describe yourself, introduce yourself, say what your business is about, why you're approaching the company and stuff like that. And then you move on to your actual document would have your executive summary, your needs statement. What is your needs statement? Simple. Why you need the money, right? Obviously, you're gonna be like, well, I have this brilliant idea, so I need $10,000. No, you have to break it down and say, okay, I have this brilliant idea. The estimated starting cost would be $10,000. The $10,000 is broken down into this, and you break it down into why you need that $10,000. So $5,000 in equipment, $2,000 in labor costs, $3,000 in importation duties, whatever it is, and you break it down accordingly, right? Goals and objectives, similar to what you would do in the business plan. Method, strategies, or program design. How do you do what you do? What do you do? Why you do it? And when you do it, and all of that. So it's who, what, when, why, and where. The W and the H, yes. Those would be number 5. Basically, those are the questions that you're answering about your business. And then the evaluation section. What is this? Your evaluation is how you evaluate your business. How do you see your business standing up, right? So you realistically evaluate your business, you identify its strengths, you identify the weaknesses, and then you say, how are you going to improve the weaknesses, okay? Other funding or sustainability. So if you've had previous funding into the same project, you make a note of it here. If not, then you don't have to put it. But sustainability, if you have not had any previous funding and you do receive that funding that you're asking for, how are you going to build on that? What are you going to do? And then information about your organization. What is your goal? What is your motto? How many staff you have? If you have staff, what type of business is it? So solo entrepreneur, double entrepreneur, all these other fancy terms for different businesses and so on. And then the project budget. And the project budget has to be as detailed as possible as you can get it to be done. Okay? And the more details you give, the better it is in terms of accountability. All right? Okay, so let's get into the business part. Where do I get the money? I have the idea, but where do I get the money? Okay? And right now I have listed here for agriculture specifically, okay? Not general business. For agriculture, for agribusiness, for agri-processing, anybody involved in any agricultural aspect of business, these are the entities that it would be in your best interest to approach to get financing, okay? So credit unions. The reason why farmers and entrepreneurs prefer to get financing from credit unions is because they have the lowest interest rates if you're looking for a loan, okay? And they're also more understanding to entrepreneurs and farmers, okay? So they would give you a grace period if you're having problems. They would actually provide with you someone to help you with your accounting, management and stuff like that. The other institutions, the bigger private banking institutions, they don't care about that. All they care about is that at the end of the month, they get the money, they get the payments. If you miss out, they're not concerned about why you miss out or how they can help you to start to get back on track with your payments, okay? Grants. We've already had previous discussion about grants, and I would have told you why I prefer grants. Because once you get the grant, it's not a loan. You just have to make sure you abide by the rules and the regulations and that you show where the money has gone, what you have done with it, and that you're responsible with it. And the beauty about grants is that if you are successful with one grant, either as an individual or a group, you actually can get recommendations for more grants. okay, that can feed into your business to help it grow. And along with grants come the opportunities for skills training, okay? They do a lot of workshops, a lot of education. They focus a lot on education because they know that you can have the money now, but if you do not have the skills needed to use that money or to grow that money wisely, you're going to be in a worse position, okay? So that is why I like grants, for the mere fact that they are very all around in terms of not just giving you the money and say, here, go and do it as you say you want to do with it, but we are going to teach you the skills needed so that you can utilize these funds as best possible. Okay, that is why I prefer grants. Government sponsorship. Government sponsorship is sort of like a grant, but with government intervention. It can go one of two ways. It can actually help push you further along, or it can hinder you, depending on the type of how I should say, the level of involvement that the government agent or the agency has with you developing your business. And the reason why I say it could go one of two ways. If you have a government agent or agency that is similar, that is putting monies or sponsoring your business similar to what a grant would do, and they're providing the training and the workshop and the education necessary, along with the funding, then that is good. However, unfortunately, sometimes what happens is that they interfere with the growth of the company because they start to interject their own personal ideals and try and manipulate the entrepreneurs to such a point where they actually give up, and then the government takes over that concept and takes it away from that person. So you have to be very careful when it comes to government sponsorship in terms of entrepreneurial projects. And I've seen it happen already, and to the detriment of the entrepreneur, and then to the detriment of the idea itself, because then it's not followed through properly, and then it falls flat. And then persons, if someone else tries to resurrect it, they're like, oh, that don't happen, that don't fail, that ain't no good, that don't use, it don't make no sense to continue with do that again, or whatever it is. So you have to be very, very careful when it comes to government sponsorship. Okay? Non-government sponsorship, NGOs, okay? NGOs are a very good source of either mini loans or mini grants, okay? And or training programs, okay? As the director for the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, I would have mentioned that we would have received grants that help persons in the community. We've done beekeepers, we've done fisheries, we've done different other areas where, even though we are training groups, at the end of those training sessions or workshops and so on, everybody gets something out of it, whether it's a mini grant or equipment that will help start up your business and so on. And some grant agencies, FAO, for example, they've actually started to move away from actually giving monies to persons who approach them with proposals. It's not that they don't want to give the monies, but unfortunately, people will take the money and say they're doing something with it and go and do something completely different. For example, there was a case where a farmer would have received some funds to improve their farm, and part of, in their mind, improving their farm was building a house on the farm with the money that was given to them. After that was found out, that farmer obviously would have had to return those funds after some legal recourse was taken against them, because that is not what the monies were given to them for. Okay? So what FAO has started doing is that persons, farmers, agro-processors and so on would send in their proposals and so on. We'd have a breakdown of materials, costs and so on. And you know what they do? They say, okay, how much do you say these materials cost here in St. Kitts? Okay, so a bag of flour costs $10 and you want 10 bags of flour? Okay. We have an agent in Barbados and 10 bags of flour is actually cheaper. So we're going to send the 10 bags of flour to you. So you don't have to buy the 10 bags of flour. Okay? It works out in that you don't have to spend your money on that 10 bags of flour. You still get 10 bags of flour to do what it is you said you were supposed to do with it. That way they ensure that you're actually doing what you're supposed to do with what you say you want. Okay? And it's the same thing with in terms of equipment and other pieces of mostly machinery and stuff like that, or materials needed to build stuff like greenhouses and stuff like that. Okay? Private investment. If you know of someone who is interested or has an interest in something that you are interested in, and you think or you feel you can have a good relationship with them, business relationship with them, and you're seeking investment so that at the end of maybe a quarter, if you make $100, they get a $20 out of the 100 and you keep the 80, then go right ahead. Okay? A lot of persons don't like to ask for private investment because they feel like they're giving away a portion of their profits. But in the long run, as you build and as you grow and you have these investors, it almost acts like a backup resource in that if there is potential for growth and they see that you're growing, they'll want to invest more. Okay? So yes, you will be losing a portion or percentage of your profits at the end of a quarter or at the end of a year, whatever it is. But then your business is still going and you're still making more money. And they are willing to continuously feed more into your business as you move along, right? So when you're looking at private investments and private investors, I don't want you to think, oh, they're going with some of my money and I'm not going to get any. If you work out a really good deal, right, you can land in you could be very comfortable if you have a very good contract with a private investor. Okay? Group collaboration or shares. Okay? You could call it a partner hand or whatever fancy term, but basically a group of persons come together and they input collateral, whether it's one person input labor, somebody else input equipment, another person inputs a certain financial contribution to maybe the water bill, another one contributes to electricity, or on a monthly basis, everybody puts $100 together and they buy feed, or they buy fertilizer, or they buy equipment, or they buy bills, or they pay bills or whatever it is, right? Or they do it on a rotation basis so that at the end of a month, somebody gets that money so that they can buy what they need for their business. Then that is something that you can look into. Understanding that sometimes they have a few shady people out there that when you're doing stuff like this, after they've received their monies, they just bust off and they're gone. Okay, and then you'll be short of funds from that particular person because they're no longer a part of the group, right? Farmers cooperatives. Farmers cooperatives function similarly to group collaborations, but as a banking unit. Okay, and it's a shoot off of credit unions. And then we have education institutions. Education institutions, most of the time, are tertiary institutions who would have an investment or invested interest in helping groups or individuals because they want certain things to be accomplished for maybe research purposes, or they have a particular goal. Okay, so for example, you know, the big talk, everybody's talking about climate change and what you can do and so on. So what the universities are doing is like, okay, we have a group of persons, women here who are agriculturists, and we want to see how they can get creative in combating climate change or this particular issue related to climate change in the island. So we're gonna have a training workshop, and then we're going to give them the skills, and then we're going to see what they do out there. And at the end, we're going to give them a little change to continue to do what it is we were training them to do. Okay? All right. Okay, almost there, almost there, almost there. Contracts. Now, with everything that I have just talked about before, and it's a lot, right? It's a lot, and this part is always a lot. It's a lot of meat to get through. Contracts are very important because once you get that money in your hands, you are going to have to sign a contract. Not only that, as a business person, a contract is going to save your life. Okay? So let's look at it. Why contracts? Okay? A well-drafted contracts provide you and your business many benefits. Clarity in the business relationships, avoiding potential contract disputes and litigation, preventing misinterpretation of communications and agreements, protecting your idea. And this is very, very, very important. And we do have an intellectual property office in St. Kitts, and they are pushing for persons to make sure that they get their logos trademarked, their ideas trademarked, because you don't want to work so hard and put something out there and someone comes and steal it and benefits off of it. Okay? Right. So now, better management of commercial relationships and built-in agreements. All right? So this is the importance of having contracts. And these are the type of contracts that you can find in agriculture. Okay? Obviously, loan agreements, general contract for services, promissory notes, leases, very, very common, employment agreement, non-compete agreement, and contract farm. All right? And here you have a breakdown of leases, because this is one of the most important types of contracts that they have. And they have a breakdown of the different types of contracts: a cash rent lease, a crop share lease, a hybrid lease, and what is contract farming. Okay? And contract farming can be defined as agricultural production carried out according to an agreement between a buyer and a farmer, which establishes conditions for the production and marketing of a farm product or products. And this last point here with contract farming is what is going to lead us into our next session next week, Tuesday, when we start to look at market linkages. All right. So I know this evening has been a lot of information. I've been doing a lot of talking because it's a lot. But we've come to the end for this evening. So as per usual, any questions, any concerns, any suggestions, any points you want to make? Anyone has any questions? Yes, Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
I find contract farming to be a very important concept, especially when you're producing a product that you know, is being grown organically, and you need to make sure that like the people you're buying from are actually doing what they're saying.
Yes.
So does that need to be drafted by a lawyer and like notarized, or can it just be something that's drafted between the buyer and the farmer? And you know,
yeah, lawyers are expensive.
Exactly.
Right?
That's why. Yes.
Yes, very good question. You can actually draft the contract between you guys yourself. And that would obviously come after having a verbal, you know, discussion, a one-on-one as to what exactly both parties are expecting from that contract. You draft it. I am not a lawyer, my mother is, but I draft contracts. I have lawyer friends. I'm like, hey, 5 minutes, read this through for me. Is this good? And it's like, yes, no, okay, all right, change this, switch this up, and whatever it is, boom, bam, bap, save yourself a lawyer fee, right? And so Yes, you don't have to get it notarized or anything. Remember, a contract is an agreement between two persons, a consensual agreement between two persons. That's basically what a contract is. That's why we have verbal contracts, right? A promissory note is a contract where someone says, okay, I promise to pay you on this date. Okay, and it can be written on a small piece of paper, and so on. So it's just an agreement that both of you have come to terms with. So it does not have to go through a lawyer, but it's always in your best interest to have someone with a legal eye go over it to make sure that you're not ambiguous and that there are no loopholes that might come back to bite you later. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, yes. Any more questions? No more questions? Okay, Indira. Yes, go ahead, Indira.
So me and Jeff again, I just want to be totally clear. So they do have for-profit granting opportunities? Or it's just for non-profit? Once you have like a project or something, they would negotiate with you. Hello?
Sorry, you were breaking up a bit. Repeat that, please.
Okay, I was just asking for some little more clarity with Jeff. They negotiate for-profit businesses as well, or just for non-profit?
For profit in a group setting.
Oh, but for profit for the individuals or for a certain project?
For a certain project.
Ah, okay. Thank you. And one last thing. What is a usual leasing agreement for lands with farming? Like what should be expected?
Okay, so with agriculture department, their lease, if you're leasing from the government, they usually have different term lease contracts. So they would have maybe a 5-year lease or a 10-year lease, right? If you're going to be farming crops on it, there are certain stipulations that they have. One of the main stipulations that they're focusing on now is that you do not build any permanent structures on the land.
Okay.
Okay. And I think the same is for Sinkits too. I know this for sure for Nevis, and I think it's the same for Sinkits too. Along with that, you have to show at the end of the year when you come in and you pay your lease fee, you have to walk with your financial records to show that you are producing up to a point that you're utilizing the land accordingly as you say you would use it. Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
We have extension officers that will go around and inspect the farms and the lease areas to make sure that what you say you're doing on the land is what you are actually doing on the land. And if there's a breach of the lease, of any of the stipulations of the lease, then they will ask you to remove yourself from there. And that's regardless if it's crops or animals.
Okay. And
Yeah.
can you tell them what size you want, or they have like regulated sizes?
Based on what you are going to produce and the square footage that is expected, because you would have to know, okay, I'm planting corn, so I need a certain square footage for each corn plant. So I'm going to need maybe a 3/4 acre, 1/4 acre for this many or whatever it is. Okay. And if they have that available, then they'll give it to you. The problem is most of the times is the availability, number one, and the location, number two. Because they might have land available to lease, but not in the area where it is best accessible for you.
Right.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Any more questions? Indira again? Or anyone else?
No, sorry, I forget to take it off.
Okay, all right. With that said, ladies, thank you for putting up with me this evening. I know it was a lot and I did a lot of talking tonight. But next week, Tuesday is going to be more interactive. Trust me. Market linkages is going to be fun, I hope. And I'm going to get more input from you from there. But the reason why I focus heavily on this aspect is very important, because if you don't grasp this aspect, then when you have your idea, you're not going to get it off the ground without this knowledge. Okay? So have a very pleasant and restful evening. If you're not at home, get home safe. If you're home, go and get comfortable, drink a nice cup of tea, drink a nice glass of wine, and so on. Relax, seusa, and then we meet again next week, Tuesday evening. Okay? Thank you guys for having me, and have a blessed evening. Ah, Lord, I sound like a professor. I'm sorry, Desiree. Have a blessed night, love. Okay, everyone, I'm going to sign off now. So see you guys on Tuesday.